Alright, so in this video we're checking out the new Radiomaster GX12. This is a new EdgeTX ExpressLRS transmitter. This has the new Gemini X transmitter built in. So in a previous video I talked about the Nomad module here. This is the Gemini X module, and this is basically a dual band, dual transmitter. So it's got two transmitters inside, and they're both 1 watt. And I did a whole video on this. If you missed that, I'll link that down in the video description. In a nutshell, basically it transmits and receives on both 2.4 and 900 megahertz. It does work specifically with Gemini X receivers, and it doesn't increase range, but it does increase the ability to punch through interference. So if you happen to fly in an environment where there's a lot of RF interference, then this may help in terms of getting better performance out of your RC link, your transmitter connection. And so that's basically the gist of it. So now they've taken this technology and they've built it into this new radio, and we're going to cover this in great detail, but I want to show you the specs here on the box, because there's a lot of new stuff in here. We're going to cover everything, but I just wanted to sort of go over it initially here on the box. So you can pause the video. I'm going to read some of this stuff here. Basically, you got a dual band, 1 watt, and Gemini crossband ExpressLRS transmitters inside there. It's got folding dual band antennas. We got some new gimbals here. They're called the GX01. They're digital, 1000 hertz, 12-bit, 3D Hall effect, CNC with EdgeTX sync. Of course, they're all metal. Folding gimbal sticks. So if you're a fan of the Tango 2, then you're going to love that. Replaceable switch panels. We'll get into that a little bit later. You can have, they're called DIY SMA ports. For if you don't like the built-in folding antennas, you can customize your own antennas for increased range or better performance. This one has an OLED display. Very nice. Internal flash storage, no SD card in this one. So I think it's 512 megabytes. So no need to hunt for an SD card. It's built into the board. And then it has a 6-position RGB switch. Talk about that here in a second. And of course it's got the cooling fan because it's got dual 1 watt transmitters inside there. So you're going to need cooling for that. Here's the specifications in terms of the size and the weight. And the rest of the stuff here, 2.4 and 900 megahertz. And go ahead and feel free to read the rest of this stuff if you want to pause the video. All right, here's the rest of the stuff that comes in the box. Standard USB-C cable for charging and connecting to your simulators. And these are the replaceable switch panels, and these go on top here. And I think the difference is that the dial is, you're going to remove the dial here because there's no you can see that dial is missing here, and this hole here is possibly bigger for the, you can replace the momentary switch with these these actual physical switches, and I think one's a regular switch and the other one is a momentary switch, and you can put them in either spot, and they're supposed to go in either here or over here. So you replace, these are momentary switches. We'll talk about all those switches in a second. And then you get a set of covers. If you want to remove certain switches, you can, and just put, cover the holes with these. And then you have some extra springs in there and an Allen wrench. And then you get a screen protector for the OLED display. Get your stickers. And you get a quick start guide. I think there's going to be a full manual online at some point, but it's not available currently, at least before the release. And then here is a breakdown of everything that is on the radio. Feel free to pause the video if you want to read over all that, but we will cover that here in a second. In terms of a size comparison, so I'm going to give you kind of a look around here real quick here. Of course, we will look at this in more detail shortly. But here it is next to my Pocket Crush. So definitely much larger and heavier than the Pocket Crush, and the gimbals are bigger as well. These are the AG01 Nanos, and these are brand new gimbals that have not been released yet. So a little bit bigger, but you'll see that they're a little bit smaller than the full-size gimbals. And then here it is next to the Zorro. This is the Zorro Max. And I don't know, it's pretty, in terms of width, it's similar. It's a little bit wider than the Zorro. And you can see, let's put it down here. Yeah, it's about the same at the bottom. And then the screen size is about the same. Of course, this one has the LCD and this one is the OLED. We'll show you that here in a second. It's beautiful. It's very nice. But the Zorro is much lighter, of course, with smaller batteries. This one has the full 18650 batteries inside. I'll show you that here in a second. But this is a full-size radio, but it's not quite as big as the Boxer. It's a little bit smaller. So here's the Boxer here. This is the Boxer Crush. And you can see it's height-wise about the same height. Obviously, you're missing the space here, side of the screen. In terms of the width, it's a little bit narrower, not much, but you can see that the gimbals are smaller. So these are the full-size AG01 gimbals on the Boxer, and then these new GX01 gimbals are a little bit smaller. I think they're probably the same size as the AG01 minis. Yeah, they look like the same size as the AG01 minis. And in terms of feel, they feel pretty much the same as the AG01 minis, in my opinion. If you guys know the spring tension, typical Radiomaster spring tension, it is adjustable. I'll show you that here in a second, but out of the box, it feels pretty much the same as the AG01 mini gimbals, in my opinion. And of course, it's all metal. Of course, these are newer with the digital feature. And these are foldable. So the stick ends are these new premium stick ends. The folding mechanism is the same as on the Tango T. You lift up the stick here, and then you just fold it down like so. It's a little bit tricky getting it to stay because it wants to pop out. There you go. So that's what it looks like folded down. So then you just throw it into your bag and you don't have to damage sticks. Now, on my unit, these are early units, so typically they'll make revisions of the radio as they discover issues. For example, on my Pocket Crush here, I think it says like the version 3 main board, and like some of the things have changed. So they don't really tell people this, but over time they make small improvements. They don't really change anything in terms of the feature set, but just little things that make it better. And I'm sure this will happen with this radio as well. I have an issue with my gimbal on the left side here, on the throttle side. For whatever reason, I'm unable to pull it out and fold it like I can on the right side. Not sure what's going on. I'm going to open this up and see if there's something like locking it in place, but I've pulled as hard as possible. I'm almost to the point of I think I'm going to break it, and it will not release. But you need to pull it up so you can fold it, and that's the folding mechanism right there. And then, of course, to unfold it, just pull it up like that, and then you're good to go. And it will only fold if you pull up on it. Otherwise, it has no effect on the stick itself because it's kind of the folding mechanism is buried inside the metal part there, so it won't break. Anyway, let's look around the radio here. So you got the GX01 gimbals here, all metal. You have these 2 screws here that adjust the travel up and down. So if you tighten it, it'll reduce the travel. If you loosen it, it'll increase the travel up and down. And then other things like tension adjustments are underneath the grips here, so I'll have to pull those off. I'll show you that here shortly. On the bottom, not much. You get these, I think, M2 screws in here, so you can possibly attach something in the future to the bottom here. And you see that there's no USB port in the bottom. It's on the top, and they've combined, finally, you have a single USB-C port for charging and connecting to the computer. It is, I think, 12-watt fast charging, and it's been a long time coming. People have asked this for a long time, so finally I have only one USB-C port instead of 2. You have your trainer port here, DSC, and then you have a headphone jack. And then these are the switches on the top. Let's look at it from this angle here so you can read the letters. So there's a ton of switches inside here. So you have SA here is a momentary switch, and then this one here is a momentary switch, SD. All right, this one here is SG, momentary switch, SB, 3-position switch, SC is a 3-position switch, and then SH is a momentary switch. Got an S2 dial here with a detent, and you have a 3-position switch here for SF, and then a 3-position switch here for SE, and then S1 is also got a dial here with a detent. The antennas fold up, so they basically fold up like this, and so you can adjust the angle this way and this way, so a dual action, so you can pretty much get the angle that you're looking for, etc. But if you can just fold them away like so, and they stay in place. But if you want to do some DIY antennas, you can just pop these little covers off, and then inside, once you take the radio apart, you can, there's some SMA ports somewhere, you can have them come out here. You have a nano module bay in the back here with this cover. They got the same cloth handle that the Boxer has, which I really don't like, unfortunately, but I'm sure there's some ways to put some DIY or third-party, like a stand or something like that, or some sort of third-party handle on the back there. I'm sure someone will figure that out. Here's the battery cover, and it's a these batteries are not included, by the way. The tray is included, but the batteries are a separate purchase. These are just included for reviewers. 18650 holder here, and 2S setup, and just plugs into the little balance port over there. And then you have I think that's a DFU button right there for putting the radio into DFU mode for firmware upgrades. It's a little hard to see, but see a little T right there with this little slot. There's 2 M2 screws in there that will adjust the throttle, the throttle tension. All right, so back to the front here, we have these trim buttons here. They're labeled T1, T2, T3, T4. I guess the lanyard or the neck strap holder is plastic here, but it's a nice thick plastic. It's your power button right there. You got your system button, model button, scroll wheel, pretty standard. And you have these potentiometers here. These, again, some more dials. They have a D10 as well, P1, P2. Got your speaker here. This is your 6-position switch, and these are fully programmable in EdgeTX. Get your return, page forward, page back, and telemetry buttons. So that is everything. Let's go ahead and I'll just show you what this looks like. Turn it on. And here's that very beautiful OLED display. Of course, it's black and white. This is much easier to read in bright sunlight. I have complained for years that Radiomaster should switch to these OLED screens, and finally they are doing it, and well overdue. Basically the same size as the screen that's on the Zorro, and it's the same 128 by 64 resolution in terms of pixels. But you can see, let's go back here. So you can see on this is probably an EdgeTX thing, but you can see all the switches here. And for example, SA, you can see that when it's depressed, it goes down like that. And then same over here, there's SD. So you can watch that right there. And then SH. So you can see these are momentary switches. Same over here. And then all these other switches here. You can see if this switch is in the middle position, that B right there stays in the middle position. So I thought that was something interesting that I hadn't noticed before. But let's go and see the system here, and so this is the version of EdgeTX that's on here, 2.1.1.0 self-build, dated 2024, October 4th. So this is probably a custom version just for this release. Of course, it will be fully supported in EdgeTX Companion and EdgeTX Buddy at some point in the future for future releases. That's pretty normal. All right, so in terms of the ExpressLRS version, I believe it's version 3 something. Yeah, 3.5.2, and you can see it's PR 3035, it's a pre-release, and you can see here that yeah, it's a Radiomaster GX12 crossband. And of course, these are all programmable, and they have programmable with different colors as well. So if you switch it to the next one, 2, it's white, then 3 is red, 4 is yellow, 5 is orange, and 6 is pink, although my camera's not really picking up these colors that well. In real life, it looks really nice. But these are programmable in the model, so I'll just go ahead and I'll show you what's going on here. So you go to the setup page under customizable switches, and then you can see here basically 1, 2, 3, and then you can see when it's on, it's green, off is blue, and you can adjust these colors. I think there's only all the colors that I just showed you are the only ones available. So if you go down to here, if you want to change the green to, let's see, there's red, white, what else is there? Yellow, orange, blue, pink, and off. So those are the only colors available. You see, as I cycle through here, the color changes. So I'll leave it to what it was originally programmed to. But yeah, of course, all these buttons are fully programmable in HTX. There's tons of videos on how to program 6-position programmable switches on YouTube, so search for that if you're looking for a tutorial. Alright, so to get to the adjustment settings for the stick tension, you have to lift up these grips, and there's a little slot right here. Just pull up on here, and then they come off really easily. So just pull them like this, and pull off the other side over here. Alright, so they're labeled. If you want to adjust the stick tension on this side, up and down, there's a screw here. Tighten it to make it increase the tension, loosen it to decrease the tension. The left-right is over here, and then over here, left, right, and up and down. And then you have these L and R over here and over here. That's to switch the mode. So right now, this stick here is in the, basically this is the throttle with the throttle's down. If you want it to be centering, then you're going to go into here and tighten this up, I believe, and that will actually, yeah, I think you tighten it up, and then that will release that spring, and then it will turn into a centering stick. But this is the mechanism that you go in, and you can't see the screws, but you can see them. I can see them, but it doesn't show up in camera. Go in there to adjust that. Yeah, I'm gonna open this up in a separate video, do a teardown, and show you how to switch out these panels here and replace switches. That's this video is getting a little too long, so I'm going to do that in a separate video. I'm going to post that over on my second channel. So if you're interested in the inside of this radio and what it looks like, I believe one of the features I didn't talk about earlier was that there's some sort of PCB coating on this particular new model, where I guess if you live in a high humidity environment, potentially if there's any condensation that might build up inside the radio, that'll protect the main board from shorting out, something like that. That's a new feature that I didn't mention earlier, but we'll see that in that video. So I'll post that over on the second channel, and I'll link that in the video description. But for now, let me just talk about the radio itself in terms of the ergonomics and the feel. I haven't had a ton of time with this, about a week, not really a ton of flights. I can tell you right now that for me, I like the smaller radios. This Pocket Crush is my daily driver radio. I love this radio. I love the short sticks and everything that I've customized. I did a whole video on that. If you want to know more about that, ask me in the comments, and I'll send you a link to that video. I think this radio here is interesting. I like these foldable gimbals. I wish this one worked over here on this left side. I'm sure I'll figure out something at some point on how to get that to work. I'm sure it's just probably like a little something pretty dumb that's going on as to why it won't lift up. But yeah, folding gimbals, love that. But I think for people that, in terms of ergonomics, I think people that pinch will probably like this radio more. Just my guess. As a thumber, yeah, I find this radio a little bit hard to hold. like I have trouble kind of figuring out where to put my other fingers without hitting, like, there's so many buttons and switches everywhere. It's hard to know exactly where to rest my fingers and have like a good handle on the radio, like a good grip on the radio, so I don't feel like I'm going to drop it. And it's heavy enough, it's like kind of almost as heavy as the Boxer, where I feel like I would need a neck strap, which I don't really like. Yeah, it's a little bit more than what I feel comfortable with in terms of holding. That's why I like the smaller and lighter radios. So as a thumber, like for example, pushing over into the far upper corners here is difficult for me, and then also down in the lower outer corners is also difficult for me. In the center, it's fine. It's just that going to the extremes, in this extreme or this extreme, is hard for me as a thumber. Now, I'm not a pincher, so take this with a grain of salt. I feel like you can hold the radio a little bit differently, and then you have I think a little bit more. Yeah, again, I just feel like down here is kind of difficult as well. It's hard to say. Ergonomically, I'm not thrilled with where all the buttons are placed. For example, like my arming switch over here, I think, if I'm holding it like this, I can probably access this switch right over here to arm it. And if you're wondering, you can, even though these are momentary switches, you can program these with logical switches so that they basically act as a latching switch. So I changed it on this one here. I'll show you what I did. So if I go to the channel monitor, this is channel 5 here, and I have this as arming. And you can see, even though it's a momentary switch, it's holding its position there like that, and then to disarm, I just press it again, and then it goes back down to the lower range there. So see, just demonstrated here. Press it, it holds, and then back down. Whereas this one here, I did not do that same programming, so you can see that's on this channel here. If I hold it down, it maintains that, and let it go, it comes back down. It's the same with the other switches as well. I don't think these are programmed in my setup here, but yeah. If you want to see a tutorial on that, let me know in the comments below. If you happen to get this radio and you want to use one of these momentary switches for arming, you can do that with some HTX programming. But yeah, overall, I don't know. I think I would have to use it a lot more, and I just can't figure out for me where to put my fingers, like exactly to get the most comfort in terms of like using the sticks and getting full range. I think this one here for arming is probably going to be the best for me, and holding it like this, although honestly it doesn't feel that comfortable for me. And again, this is very subjective. This might be the perfect radio for you. I don't know. It just really depends on the person, in terms of like how they're going to feel in terms of comfort, and ergonomics will be different for every person. Everyone just has their own way of holding things, and they may love this setup, or they may find it to be very difficult to use. I kind of wish that the gimbals were a little bit, at least in this setup, more centered in the radio, like down here. Just feel like it up here, it's just that, I think that's where my source of discomfort is. And then I want to hold it like this, and then the weight of the battery here kind of drags it down like this. And so I think that's where my discomfort is coming from, is that the weight's coming down like this, and I want to hold it up on the top. So I don't know. Again, this is very subjective. You might find this completely wrong for you. So I'm just kind of sharing my personal observations on how I felt in this one. Anyway, I'll link this down in the video description. Again, I'll open this up in a separate video. I'll link that video down in the video description over, and that'll be on the second channel. So if you're subscribed to that channel, you'll see that at some point soon. That'll do it for this video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.